Kadosh, Boker Tov, Masechet Chagigah, Boker Tov, Masechet Chagigah Daf Yud 17a1, the Mishnah. It says in the Mishnah, Bet Shammai Omrim, Bet Shammai says, Mevin Shlamim, Ve'en Somichim Aleim. So according to Shita Bet Shammai, on Yom Tov you bring peace offerings, Shlamim. However, though we do not do Simicha on Yom Tov, we do it Erev Yom Tov, because since you do not need to do Simicha Samuch L'Shchita, that means you do not need to do the Simicha Mamash right close to the Shechita. So therefore, the mitzvah of Simicha does not push off the Yom Tov that you lean on the animal. Avalo olot, but not on olot. That means you're not allowed to bring an olah on Yom Tov. Remember, olah is a burnt offering. It goes completely to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, since a shechita is not necessary for human beings, so therefore we do not do that on Yom Tov. Bet Hillel omrim, Bet Hillel says, mevi'im shelamim be'olot. So first of all, they argue and they say you are allowed to bring shlamim and also olot. Remember, shlamim was according to everybody because the shechita is also the Torah Yisrael. It's for us, but it's also you're allowed to bring an olah on Yom Tov and somchim aleim. You're allowed to do semicha on them as well. Okay. Now, according to him, because he says that you have to do semicha samuch l'shechita. The semicha has to be close to the shechita. So therefore, since you're only doing the shechita on Yom Tov, so the semicha is close to the shechita, and therefore it's going to push off the Yom Tov. Atzeret. What is atzeret? Shavuot. So Shavuot shechal yom Erev Shabbat, that it's going to come out on Erev Shabbat. Bet Shammai says Yom Tevuach le'achar Shabbat. So if Shavuot comes out on Erev Shabbat, Bet Shammai says, when do you do the Olat Re'iyana Shalmei Chagigah? On Sunday, Yom Rishon, because you're not allowed to bring it on Yom Tov and Shabbat. Bet Hillel says, En la Yom Tevuach. There's no Yom Tevuach. What does that mean? There's no Atzeret, right? There's no Atzeret. It does not need. That's what it says here. Atzeret does not need the Yom Tevuach. Why? But since you're allowed to bring the Chagigah and Olat Re'iyah on Yom Tov itself, according to Bet Hillel, so therefore it doesn't need another day. Why are you going to do it another day? You do it the exact same day on Yom Tov. Umodim, but Bet Hillel are going to be modem. Shinchala Yom b'Shabbat, that if Shavuot falls out on Shabbat itself, Shiyom Tevuach le'achar Shabbat. It's going to be on Sunday. Why? Because even Bet Hillel, they agree that you do not bring the Korban Chagigah and Re'iyah right on Shabbat. You could only bring it on Yom Tov. Right? If right now Shavuot comes out on Shabbat, and therefore the Yom Tov, right? Therefore, the Yom Tevuach, which means the day that they're going to bring the sacrifice, is going to be on Yom Rishon. The Kohen is not going to put on his clothing, right, from his house, right? What does that mean? Right? Or and you're allowed to actually, mamash, you're allowed to do ta'anit and esped and everything like a regular weekday. Not in order not to fulfill the words of the Tzedokim. To tell you that atzeret is always going to be after Shabbat, which means we know that there's a famous machloke between the Sadducees, the Tzedokim, the Chachamim. According to the Sadducees, when is Shavuot? According to the Sadducees, every single year, Shavuot is always on Sunday. Motzei Shabbat Sunday. Every year. Why? It's written in the Torah. In the Torah, it says, Mimachorat Shabbat tispiru 50 yom. Right? From after Shabbat, which is Sunday, you're going to count 50 days. If you're going to count 50 days, so after Shabbat, it's always going to come out on Sunday. Right? We learn that Shabbat is also Yom Tov. So when it says Machorat Shabbat, it means the day after Yom Tov. That's why we always count Sefirat HaOmer, or the 50 days, from the second day of Pesach. For us, it's also Yom Tov, right? Because it's the Asra, but Machorat Shabbat is after the first day of Shabbat. There, the Shabbat is really Yom Tov. So Machorat Shabbat is 50 yom. So therefore, he comes and he says like this: if right now we are going to do that Sunday is the day of the Shechita, we don't want them to come and start, getting in Yom Tov clothing, and then that it's going to be a Sur Besped and all these things. Why? Because then it looks like we're doing like the Sadducees. Because the Tzedokim, on that Sunday, they're doing Shavuot. So for us, we're only bringing the Korban on that day. But we're not doing Shavuot on that day. But in order that we don't get mixed up, meaning we don't want to show Bichlal that we're connected to the Tzedokim, B'chavana, you're allowed to do Melacha, you're allowed to do Esped, you're allowed to do Ta'anit, right? You're not going to get dressed up in the Bigdei Kohen Gadol. Amash, like it's a regular day, right? We just have Tashumin or whatever it is, but it's why? We want to take out from the hearts of the Tzedokim. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Elazar, says Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Oshaya, says Rabbi Oshaya, yeah? Minayin le'atzeret sheyesh la tashlumim. How do we know that atzeret has tashlumim? Which means, how do we know that you're allowed to do tashlumim for atzeret? Remember, tashlumim means that you're going to make something up, right? You missed, for example, Shachrit. Yeah, you can make it up in Mincha. You missed Mincha, you can make up Arvit. You missed Arvit, you can make up Shachrit. Right? Some people, they don't come here for Arvit. They have to make it up. For Shachrit, Mincha, you understand? They have to make it up. So therefore, that's called Tashlumin. Okay, so Tashlumin is you have to make it up. So how do we know that Atzeret also has Tashlumin? Called Shiva all the 7 days afterwards. It says the Gemara, Shneimah, it says in a pasuk, B'Chag HaMatzot u'Chag HaShavuot u'Chag HaSukkot. On the Chag HaMatzot, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Right, that is the order. The order, we always start from Nisan. So it's always Chag HaMatzot, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Makish Chag HaShavuot leChag HaMatzot. So you make a Hekesh. Chag HaShavuot to Chag HaMatzot. What's the Hekesh? The Hekesh is, Ma Chag HaMatzot yesh la Tashlumin. Just like Chag HaMatzot, you have Tashlumin Kol Shiva. So to Chag Shavuot is Tashlumin Kol Shiva. That means we're applying it to Pesach. Pesach, if you didn't bring it on the first day of Pesach, when can you bring it? The next 7 days. There's no problem. So the same thing. Shavuot also you can bring in the next 7 days as well. Ve'ema makish lechag HaSukkot. Ask the Gemara, why don't I make a Hekesh? Why don't I make a Hekesh to Chag HaSukkot? Why am I going to make the Hekesh from Shavuot to Pesach? Maybe I should make the Hekesh from Shavuot to Sukkot. Because remember, what's a Hekesh? Hekesh means juxtaposition, proximity. In the same pasuk, it's written all three. So why am I saying it says Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot? Why am I saying that the middle one is compared to the first one, which is Pesach? Maybe the middle one is compared to the second one, the third one, which is Sukkot. So maybe Ma Sukkot, Chag HaSukkot, Yesh Tashlumin Kol Shmona. Chag HaSukkot is different. You have Tashlumin for 8 days. It's not 7 days. So therefore, why? Because you could also bring it on Shemini Atzeret. It's not only just on Sukkot, Shemini Atzeret as well. So to Chag HaShavuot, Yesh Tashlumin Kol Shmona. So to Shavuot should also have Tashlumin for 8 days and not 7 days. Answers the Gemara, Shemini Regel B'fnei Atzmo. Says no, Shemini Atzeret is a different Chag. Since Shemini Atzeret is a different Chag, it's not part of Chag HaSukkot. We say Shemini Chag Atzeret. It's a completely different Chag. So because of that, Chag HaSukkot Be'emet Yesh Lo Tashlumin only until 7 days. The Shemini Atzeret is a different thing. It's a different halakha. Why? Because it's a new Chag. That's something else. So says the Gemara, Eimor Da'amri Shemini Regel B'fnei Atzmo. When do we say the Shemini Atzeret is a different Chag? This is only to do with Pazar Kashav, right? We already learned this, if you remember also as well. We learned this a few times, right? It says we learned this in Rosh Hashanah, Moed Katan, right? So he says here, what is Pazar Kashav? Here, if you remember, it says in the footnote, if you could see, Pazar is Pizar, right? Payas, right? This is talking about the Pais, when we're talking about the lottery, right? Zman, Regel, Korban, Shir, Beracha. What does that mean? All these things, for example, when you do the Pais, what is the Pais? When they used to do the lottery of which Kohen does all the different melachot. Zman is Shechianu. You make Shechianu on Shemini Atzeret. It's a different Chag. Regel, it's a Regel B'fnei Atzmo. You don't say Chag HaSukkot. You say Shemini Chag Atzeret. Korban, you bring another Korban on Shemini Atzeret. It's Vayom Shemini. It's a different Korban than the other Korbanot. Shir, it's a different song also in the Bet Mikdash. And also Beracha. The same thing as Beracha on Shemini Atzeret. They used to Mevarchim et Ha'am, the Melech. Right, Zecher Chanukat Habayit also used to bless Shlomo Melech. So that's what's to do with the beracha, which means to do with Pazar Kashav, these halachot. It's different. It's a different concept of what? Of Shemini Atzeret. So Shemini Atzeret is a different Chag b'fnei atzmo. Aval inyan tashlumin, but to do with tashlumin, he says tashlumin derishonu. We thought there was also always a tashlumin of the first day. So don't tell me that Shemini Atzeret is a regel b'fnei atzmo to do tashlumin. It's a regel b'fnei atzmo for these halachot, for Pazar Kashav, but not to do with tashlumin. Tashlumin dirishonu. Ditzram is we learned in the Mishnah above. Mishelo chag biyom tov harishon shel chag. Somebody, this is the Mishnah. We learned in the Mishnah. Tet Amud Aleph. We said if a person did not do the first day of Yom Tov, he did not bring the chag. Yeah. What does he do? Chogeg et kol haregel. He's allowed to bring it all the days of the regel. V'yom tov acharon, and even on the last day of Sukkot, with Shmini Atzeret, also. So again, we have the same question. Why are you telling me that Shavuot is compared to what? To Pesach, and therefore it's only going to be how many days?
7.
How many days? 7 days. It should be compared to Sukkot, and on Sukkot it should be what? 8 days. So to Shavuot should be 8 days. So says the Gemara, the same answer that our good friend, he came back just on time just to learn this, right? Tafasta merubelo tafasta, tafasta muat tafasta. He says no. He says when we are going to learn a din from the pasuk, it is always better to learn a smaller din than a bigger din. Here I had 2 choices. I could have learned Shavuot to Pesach, which Tashlumin is 7 days, or I could have learned Sukkot, I could have learned Shavuot to Sukkot, which is 8 days. So because of that, it's much better to learn what has a smaller amount than what has a bigger amount. Because tafasa merubeh, right? Lo tafasa. Okay. The 7 is going to be okay. Exactly. But the 8, it's already in question. So says the Gemara, okay, fine. So then, 1 second. So why is it written in Chag Sukkot right after Chag Shavuot? If I'm only comparing Chag Shavuot to Chag Pesach and not to Sukkot, so why is it written in that pasuk? So says the Gemara, La'kushe lechag matzot, because we are making a juxtaposition, Chag Sukkot to Chag Matzot. What's the juxtaposition? Ma Chag Matzot ta'unina. On Pesach, you have to go to Yerushalayim, and you're obligated to sleep there the first night. There's no in and out, right? You know, some people, they go for 7 days, right? Or whatever. But you go in, you have to stay there for the night on Pesach. Yeah, doesn't matter. We just said you're obligated to go in and to stay there, right? They learned this in Rosh Hashanah. Ta'unina. It says we are making a kesh to Chag Matzot, just like Chag Matzot. Ta'unina, you have to sleep there. So to Chag Sukkot ta'unina. Chag Sukkot also, you have to sleep in Yerushalayim. So therefore, on the first day of Sukkot, you have to sleep in Yerushalayim. It's not just enough to come, bring a... No. You have to sleep in Yerushalayim. Says the Gemara, vehata minalam. How do we know b'Chag Pesach that you have to sleep there? Right? Yudzayin Mubet, 17b. It says, Dichtiv, it says in a pasuk, ובישלת ואכלת במקום אשר יבחר השם אלוקיך ובפנית בבוקר והלכת לאוהליך. It says ופנית בבוקר והלכת לאוהליך, which means you're not allowed to go back to your house until the boker, right? Until the boker. So the nighttime you have to sleep there. Even though you did the Korban Pesach already, you slaughtered on the night of Pesach and you ate it on the night of Pesach, you have to sleep there. There's nothing what to do. So now we learned in the Mishnah, עצרת שחל להיות בערב שבת. Yeah? It says over here, עצרת. Yeah, he comes and he says that comes out on Erev Shabbat. Bet Shammai Omi, what do we say in the Mishnah? Bet Shammai comes and it says Yom Tevoach le'achar Shabbat. Right? When is the Yom Tevoach? After the Shabbat. It's going to be on Sunday. Bet Hillel says, right? Again, this is from Mishnah. Mishnah said Shavuot comes out on Erev Shabbat. According to Bet Shammai, can you bring the korbanot on Yom Tov? We said that you cannot bring the Olat Reya on Yom Tov because you cannot bring an Olah, only a Shanim. So Bet Shammai says, Yom Tov, when is it going to be? On Sunday, Achar Shabbat. Bet Hillel, when this Bet Hillel says, Enla Yom Tov, why? You do it on the same day of Yom Tov. My lover, we're not talking about Enla Yom Tov, that you don't bring it at all. So says the Gemara, no, for sure that you don't bring it at all. She'enat Tzicha Yom Tov, which means since you could bring it on Yom Tov, right? If you didn't bring it on Yom Tov, you could still bring another 6 days after Yom Tov, like Rav Oshaya. Right, but it's not that it doesn't have tashumin. It does have tashumin, right? But you could still bring it on the first day of Yom Tov. So says the Gemara, so what is it coming to teach you? That you're allowed to bring the Nolat Riyah on the same day of Yom Tov on Shavuot. They already argued on this, right? Why? The Tanambas we learned in the beginning of the Mishnah. Bet Shammai omrim mevin shlamim ben somchim alehem, אבל לא עולות. Bet Hillel omrim mevin shlamim ve'olot somchim alehem. Which means like this. Let's analyze the Mishnah, the former part of the Mishnah and the latter part of the Mishnah. The former part of the Mishnah, which is called the Reisha, Seifa, Rosh, so. The Reisha of the Mishnah brings down the Machloke Bet Shammai Bet Hillel. Can you bring Olah or not? According to Bet Shammai, Shlamim yes, Olah no. Bet Shammai. Can you do Semicha? No. Why? Because you don't need to do Techab L'Smicha, right? Techab L'Shvita Smicha, and therefore you can do it Erev Yom Tov. According to Bet Hillel, are you allowed to bring Olah? Yes. Shlamim? Kol Sheken. Right, for sure. Can you do Semicha? Yes. So that's the first part. So in the first part of the Mishnah, what did I already teach you? You could bring an Olat Riyah on Yom Tov according to Bet Hillel. According to Bet Shammai, no. What's the next part of the Mishnah? If Shavuot comes out on Erev Shabbat, according to Bet Shammai, when are you going to do it? Sunday. According to Bet Hillel, when are you going to do it? Friday. I already know that. What you're bringing me a new machloket? We already know. According to Bet Shammai, you do it on Sunday because you cannot do it on Yom Tov, and you cannot do it on Shabbat. But according to Bet Hillel, if you're allowed to do it on Yom Tov, so You already told me that at the beginning of the Mishnah. That's what the
That's
Gemara is asking. The Gemara is saying, what is the coming teacher? You're allowed to bring it on the same day? They already argued in one time. When? In the Reisha of the Mishnah. Bet Shammai omrim mevi shamim, right? Ben somchim alehem, mevi shamim somchim alehem lo olot. Bet Hillel omrim mevi shamim somchim alehem. Right? So says the Gemara, answers the Gemara, Siricha. What does Siricha means? You need both parts of the machloket. You need both parts of the Mishnah. Why? The Yashmin and Beha, if the Mishnah would only tell us the Reisha of the Mishnah. What was the Reisha of the Mishnah? Machloket Bet Shammai Bet Hillel to do with Ola on Yom Tov. Are you allowed to bring it or not allowed to bring it? Right? So he says, Beha kamli Bet Shammai. Right? On this says Bet Shammai, Mishum de'efshar lemachar, because you could bring it the next day. Right? That means there in the Reisha of the Mishnah, we're talking about a regular day of Yom Tov. Right? What does that mean? It could be on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever it is. And therefore, on that day of Yom Tov, don't bring it. But when can you bring it? The next day. Aval beha, but in the latter part of the Mishnah, where it's somewhat Erev Shabbat, maybe they're going to be modeh to Bet Hillel, but if not, if they can't bring it on Erev Shabbat, they can't bring it on Shabbat. If they can't bring it, well, they're going to push it off until Sunday. So therefore, that's why you had to teach us the chidush of the latter part of the Mishnah. But if it only taught us the latter part of the Mishnah, which was if it comes out on Friday, then according to Bet Shammai, you do it on Sunday, and according to Bet Hillel, you do it on the same day. Right? On this, Bet Hillel comes and he says, right, that what? That Olat Riyah Yom Tov itself, Mishum Delo Efshar L'Machar, but you can't bring it the next day. Aval Beha, but in the first case of the Mishnah, maybe maybe they agreed to Bet Shammai that Be'emet, usually you should push it off to the next day. Meaning like this, if you would, on each one, there was a chidush. If it only taught us a seifa, I would have thought that when does Bet Hillel come and say that you do it the same day? Only if it comes out on Friday. Because then if not, what? You're not going to do it on Friday. You're not going to do it on Shabbat. Now you're going to do it on Sunday. So yeah, do it on Friday. But let's say it will come out on a Wednesday. Maybe Bet Hillel also agreed to Bet Shammai. Don't do it on Wednesday. Do it on Thursday. Thursday is not the Yom Tov. Do it on Thursday.
Why would Bet Hillel say that?
Why? Because why not? You could still do it the next day. Right?
It's like it's
the Gemara. Hashema, we learned in Braita, okay? Mi shelo chag shivat yemei Pesach, u'shmoneh yemei chag yom tov shel atzeret, shuv eno chogeg. Here it says mefurash, if somebody did not do the 7 days of Pesach, he didn't bring the korban of the shalmei Hagigah, right? Or the 8 days of Sukkot and yom tov of atzeret. It even says rishon, but it's in brackets. But even if you're going to say whether it does say the rishon without the rishon, but it's mashma that how many days of atzeret do you have? 1 day. So here it's written mefurash, you only have 1 day to do the Hagigah. Mishen o chogeg, right? Shuven o chogeg, he doesn't do it again. So therefore, you see from here, Pesach, how many days do you have to do it? 7 days. Sukkot, how many days do you have to do it? 8 days. What about on Shavuot? You only have 1 day. So is it my love? Right? Are we not talking about Yom Tov Shel Atzeret and Yom Tov V'Ritzot that you only have 1 day, and if you didn't bring a day of Yom Tov, Kaddish? And so the Gemara, lo Yom Tevoach. We're talking about the Tashlumim. Right? What does that mean? That if you didn't bring it on the Yom Tevoach, right, of the Tzedek, Shuvin Makri, which is the Tashlumin. If you didn't bring it on the Tashlumin of a Tzedek, then you can't bring it anymore. Okay? So says the Gemara, Yihachi, so, Nivshav Mina Dechad Yom Tevoach. So why don't we just bring a proof that it's only 1 day and not many days, right? We wanted to say that how many days do you have a Tashlumin for Shavuot? Like Pesach, which is 7 days. So you have another 6 days afterwards to pay back, right? So I would have thought to say that but here you're saying Mefurash, that it's 1 day. So says the Gemara, you're right. Ema yemei tevuach. Don't say yom tevuach. Yemei. Yemei is plural. If it said yom tevuach, it's only 1 day. But the fact that it says yemei, plural, it's always more than 1. So, okay, so it's going to be the 6. Again, why are you not going to say more that we already mentioned? But tafasta merubeh, lo tafasta. Yeah? So Tashema, we're going to bring now another proof. Amrat Torah menei yamim v'kadesh, right? Chodesh. Menei yamim v'kadesh atzeret. So he says like this. Amrat Torah, the Torah is coming and telling us that you have to count days, whether it's going to be 30 or 29 days, and then you're going to come and you're going to be Mekadesh at the Chodesh. You're going to make Rosh Chodesh and you bring a Korban Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. Okay? Menei Yamim, Mekadesh, you're going to count 50 days, and then you're going to make Shavuot. Ma Chodesh Limnuyav, just like the Rosh Chodesh is going to be always going to be, which is Yamim, right? Which is Yom Echad, Afatzeret Limnuyav. So to here, when you're going to do the Chag Shavuot, it's going to be for the 1 day. Right, that you're counting until the Chag. So, my love, Gamar me Chodesh, are we not that you're learning it from the Chodesh? Just like Chodesh is always 1 day, which is going to be 1 day of Rosh Chodesh, and you're going to be in the Korban Musaf of Rosh Chodesh, so to Atzeret, right? It should also only be 1 day, right? So there's a stira to Rav Oshia. Remember, Rav Oshia was the one that says that you have tashlumin, the concept of tashlumin, that you could have a makeup, right? That if you didn't do it on the first day, you could still bring it later on. Here, what we're trying to bring a proof is that there's no makeup. Kaddish, right? You finished, you didn't do it on that day, you can't make it up. Says the Gemara, Amar Rava comes and he says, V'tizbera. Do you think it's logical to say such a thing? Atu atzeret yomem maninan. Shavuot, we only count days to Shavuot and not weeks to Shavuot. What do you remember when we count to Shavuot? Hayom, whatever it is, but we also count both. V'amar Abaye says, mitzvah limimne yome, tichtiv tzisru 50 yom. There's a mitzvah to count days, because we say you have to count 50 days. Or mitzvah limimne Shavuot, and you also say weeks, right? Tichtiv shiva Shavuot, so you have to count 7 weeks. So if it's not only just days, it's days and weeks for the Shavuot. Don't tell me it's only days, right? And furthermore, Chag Shavuot Ktiv. It says from the name of the Shavuot, the Yikar is Shavuot, not days. What does Shavuot mean? Shavuot is a week. That's why it's called Shavuot. So it's weeks. What are you telling me? That's only days? It's not days. It's also weeks, right? How do you do? Hayom, right? Arbasa, whatever it is. Yom, Shem Shavuot, right? Shvaim. Okay, I give you a Shnei Shavuot. I give you a Arbasa. But whatever it is, you're counting days and weeks. You're not only just counting days. So says the Gemara, right? Okay, fine. You pushed it off. You're right. That means don't bring me a proof from Chodesh. A Chodesh is only days, right? And not weeks. Shavuot should only be days and not weeks. Look, he says, Devera Bilezer ben Yaakov Tana. In the Karmi Bilezer ben Yaakov, they taught, Amar Katzot and Pasuk Ukratem. Ukratem be'etzam yom hazeh mikra kodesh. The next pasuk says, Uvkutzrechem eketziratzachem. You're going to reap. Okay, so you're going to call it the day of Shavuot, and you're going to reap. What is the chag that you call it a chag and you reap? When do you reap the field? That's in the Atzeret. So I would have said, right, when is going to be permitted to liktzor? Only when it's mikra kodesh Shavuot. So ilem of Yom Tov. If you're going to tell me it's on Yom Tov, ketzira Yom Tov, are you allowed to do ketzira on Yom Tov? You're not allowed to do ketzira on Yom Tov. Ketzira is reaping. Are you allowed to reap on Yom Tov? You're not allowed to reap. Elalav, but rather it's the tashlumin of Shavuot. Because on the days of the tashlumin, you're allowed to reap. And that's the only time you're reaping. On Pesach, you don't reap. Okay? But it's on the tashlumin. That's what we're talking about. So therefore, you're calling it Mikra Kodesh, which means that Ki'ilu, you're allowed to bring the Korban. So therefore, you're calling it Ki'ilu, it's a tashlumin of Yom Tov. I mean, Tzachani, you're allowed to reap it. That's the only time that you're going to be reaping it. So therefore, you see from here, this is another proof to what? That there is such a concept of Tashlumei Chagigah, Nolat Riyah, Shavuot, that you have the 7 days to do it. Now, even though we just said this Drashav Rabbi Eliezer, right, in the name of Oshia, we also need Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Meaning, we had 2 different learnings. This learning, the first learning was of Rabbi Elazar Amar of Oshia, right? And now we have another learning. What is the other learning? Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov was to do with the Tashlumin and the Ketzira Mikra Kodesh. Rav Oshia was the entire concept of the juxtaposition of Chag HaShavuot and Chag HaPesach and Chag Sukkot. We need both. Again, the same thing. David, pay attention. Itzrich, we need both. Why do we need both learnings? If it was only going to be the Rabbi Elazar of Oshia, that means basically we make a hekesh. What's a hekesh? Juxtaposition in the proximity between Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Hava mina, I would have thought to say, Mata Shumin Shechag HaMatzot Asur Asiyah Melacha, after Shumei Atzeret Nami Asur Melacha. 1 second. When you are doing the Tashlumin on Pesach, are you allowed to work during those days? It's Chol HaMoed. It's Chol HaMoed, and then it's the last day of Yom Tov. So you're not allowed to do Melacha. So I would have thought to say, 1 second, if you're already comparing Shavuot to Pesach, just like the Pesach, the Tashlumin is 7 days and it's Asur B'Melacha, so too the Tashlumin of Shavuot, it's Asur B'Melacha. So that means you're not allowed to work the 7 days after Shavuot. Why? Because if you're already comparing the 7 days of Tashlumin to Pesach, I'm going to say it's 100%. So therefore, I need Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, right, to come and to teach you that it's not prohibited to work on the 7 days of Shavuot, because the proof, you're allowed to do Ketzirah during that time. And you're not allowed to do Ketzirah on Yom Tov, obviously. So for that's why I need him. After Shumei Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov comes to teach Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov that during the days of Tashlumin of Shavuot, you're allowed to do even Ketzirah. You're allowed to reap the fields. Because it's a pasuk mefurash.
So the kisha doesn't work between Shavuot and
Right? Therefore, if it was only now Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, remember, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov was that you're calling it a chag, but you're still allowed to reap because you're reaping. Remember, the only chag that you're reaping is chag HaKatzid, is always the chag of reaping, right? Because remember, chag HaAsif, the gathering from the house, is the Sukkot. Chag HaKatzid, right, is the reaping, is the Shavuot. So now what happens is like this. If you're now telling me, that means I only had the pasuk to do with that you're calling it a Yom Tov, and you're still reaping. What is that? Lo yadana kama. I wouldn't have known how many days of Tashumi. Right? Because how do you know it's 7? Where did you get the number from? So therefore, Kamashvalan, that's why I needed Rabbi Lazar or Rabbi Shia to teach you the number. So therefore, the number 7, where did you get the magic number from? I needed the Hekesh of Rabbi Lazar or Rabbi Shia. The concept that you're allowed to do work, right? And it's during the reaping time. That means you're allowed to do work and it's still Mikra Kodesh, that I had to learn from Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Okay, and that's how we finish off the daf. Is that we continue on Sunday with Yudchet.